Here we game day Winnipeg here on Bonfire Sports. The man is back to my virtual left, Chris Walby. How are you, Bluto? What's going on?
You know what? It's great to be back and, all the stuff going on with the CFL and that's, the league and the players. And it's just good to be back talking football. It really is. I think a lot of people are watching hockey right now with the playoffs and, the Calgary and Edmonton game. It's just going to be a great one.
It's been fun.
But then again, you got to look at what we're doing now. And it looks like, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, Darrin. I know I do sometimes, but it looks like the league or the players will be actually voting on a new proposal in the next 30 minutes or so. So we'll find out. We do know one thing, I guess, Darrin, and that is they raised the amount of ratification money to the players from $1 million to $1.25. That's the only thing we know right now.
So seeing reports just moments ago that a tentative agreement has been reached. Yep. So this is good news because it's Game Day Winnipeg. You haven't said anything about my t-shirt, Chris. I'm a little bit heartbroken.
Well, I'm a little heartbroken that you told me that's the biggest size they make.
I'm going to sew two together and get you one, okay?
Well, I'm a little, yeah. I'll take it at this point in my life. The disappointment is etched all over my face for not being I'm wearing a Mike Kelly Widener football shirt when he used to coach in Widener. And I saw your shirt and I was like, dang, that looks good.
Well, you got the right heart. You got the right. Sorry, you're not wearing your
extra large.
You're not wearing the hottest apparel item in town right now, and that's your Bonfire Sports hat. I'm a little heartbroken to see that.
At least that fits. I got a pinhead, so that fits my head. At least I can wear that.
Well, we digress. Maybe we'll get some apparel for sale on bonfiresports.ca.
There you go, buddy.
Soon. But Farhan Lalji, just a few minutes ago, Chris, saying, here's the collective bargaining agreement ratio adjustments, a rolling ratio. So those nationalized Americans, there's a lot of gray area there, but we'll figure it out. Those nationalized Americans can play up to 49% of snaps. 2 in 2023, and the CFL has the right to move it to 3 in the 2024 season if they believe it's working. 2 teams with the most number of Canadian snaps in any given season will be given an extra second-round draft pick. Oh. So there's the incentive for teams to play their Canadians. That's been the whole thing. I talked about this with Hustler on Winnipeg Sports Talk today, Chris. GMs and coaches are asking for more ratio flexibility. And if it's a hard ratio of 7 Canadian starters and you lose an O-lineman or you lose a tailback or you lose a linebacker or a safety or whoever it is, your Canadian star, you got to replace him with a Canadian or get a Canadian in at another spot. That is challenging, but it does force teams to develop their Canadian talent.
That's exactly it, DB.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. This has been good. This is 100. The oldest league in the world is, CFL, 100 plus years. And now you're doing, I guess from what I'm understanding here, there'll be the 49 or nationalized Canadian, which means you've played 3 years with the same team or 5 years in the CFL, which I don't like at all. I like the fact that you should have just from the same team because you're trying to you're trying to get continuity, player identification with the fans. And there's too much movement right now. But I'm still saying this. Now that it looks like it's only going to be taking effect in, if I'm wrong, 2023 will be the first year that they allow 2. And that's on top of the 1 naturalized American who will be considered Canadian. Now, how many Canadians, because I know the league wanted to go 6 with a national. The players wanted 7. They wanted to keep it 7 and a national. We don't know if it's gone backwards. I'm blown away that this 49% thing. I said this, I was all upset because I said, how are you going to keep track of this? There's so many games you can play with this right now. Right. I'm going to put Darrin Bauming in, and who's going to track 49%?
Well, that's the thing. I think you tweeted they got to hire a staff of accountants, to watch it all.
I don't understand.
And then here's the thing: if it's the Grey Cup, Chris, and a team just you know what? I'm going to break the rules and I'm going to play more Americans than I'm allowed.
Perfect.
What are you going to do? Are you going to take away their first-round pick? Any team would trade their first-round pick next year for a Grey Cup. Any team.
Well, yeah, you know what, DB? I remember the years back, guys were going over the salary cap because they said, we'll get fined and maybe potentially lose a draft pick the following year. But having said that, if you're winning, they'll take the penalty. If you're winning, we'll do the crime. We'll do the time. They don't care. I don't know how they're going to do this. I'm actually, now we don't know if it's been agreed upon. Remember, this is what they're suggesting. We don't know if the players have agreed to this. And I know a lot of the players were very upset with this 49% because it's the start of a rolling ball. You start taking 2 more. Now you can 223. You're going to have 3 potential national players that are American, and you know what? It's going to somehow affect, it's going to impact the amount of Canadians and the amount of quality Canadians you have playing. And I'm just totally against it. I don't know if the players are going to vote for this. I thought this was one of the sticking points before. So I'm very surprised that they brought it back up.
We got to remember, like, Andrew Harris would not be playing in the CFL today if it wasn't for the ratio, if it wasn't for junior football and territorial exemptions, territorial rights going to the BC Lions when he was playing for the West Shore Rebels, if I'm not mistaken, in Canadian junior football. Shout out to the 4 Winnipeg Rifles dressing in the game tomorrow.
Good for them. Yeah, congrats.
Yeah, looking forward to watching them play. But check out my Twitter for their names and numbers so you can follow them on the field as well. But Chris, I do want to mention we got the live chat going. It's this way, I think.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Shout out to everybody, our good friend Nick Kowalski, who crushed it at the Grey Cup for Bonfire Sports. Chris, I know you and him became quick friends and chatted up a lot. Got Milt, Donnie Boy says go blue. Kitty Pup 1000 is glad to see us back. So you can hit up the live chat throughout the show, and you can also text the hotline. So that number's above. I'm going to throw it up here as well. 204-816-TIPS. 204-816-8477. You got a tip, you got a question, you got a comment, you can text, and I'll see the text. You can leave a voicemail. If it's good and you bring the heat and leave your name, then I will play it on the post-game show. We've got Game Day After Dark coming up Friday after the game. We're going to let the home broadcast and everybody do their post-game show. I'm going to do my best to race home after talking to Mike O'Shea and the guys in the locker room and that sort of thing. And we'll get Game Day After Dark going with your questions and comments. But I'm going to be checking my phone throughout the show, so text it up right now. Standard rates apply, like it says right there. Like when you text your mama. So if you got to pay to text, you're going to have to pay to text this number. But, if you got a texting plan, you should be fine. It's not going to cost you anything extra. Chris, what are you most curious about? Like now that we can maybe move on from the CBA talk, and no doubt those reports, like follow Jeff Hamilton and John Hodge and Dave Naylor and Farhan Lalji and Dan Barnes of the Canadian Press. Follow all those great reporters. They've got all the details as they emerge over the next few hours here. What are you most curious about, Chris, when it comes to the Blue Bombers roster makeup? Who hopes to make an impression in these preseason games? All of it, as the Blue Bombers look for back-to-back-to-back, a three-peat Grey Cup.
Well, I think the biggest thing, and you hit on the head, if they do agree to this, and there is a game tomorrow, the nicest thing is the rookies get an opportunity to shine. I mean, preseason, even though there's only 2 games, a lot of these first-year guys or guys that are with the first year with this team will get an opportunity to try and play. Because remember this now, you're not, you're not going live with the lights, in practice. I know one of the sticking points, and I've got to go back to this, the CFLPA again. They didn't really want one padded practice a week. And I'll be honest with you, we never had anything but padded practice. But that's just the mentality it was back then. I understand they're saying that 33% less injuries now, but they get so much time off now. I can't see it. I mean, I'm just blown away. Vet days. Let's heard about these things before.
Yeah, and there's a
standard practice.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Chris.
Go ahead, ma'am.
There's a lot of guys taking their vet days. Like Adam Bighill had to leave, walk through early today. Of course, he's on the CFL PA bargaining committee and a VP with their executive. That's a little bit different. But, guys taking 3, 4, 5 days. Greg Ellingson has not practiced the last 4 days. He was on the field for walkthrough, but of course, walkthrough is just walking. So we don't know how he is physically. Of course, Mike O'Shea, cards close to the vest, as always. It is a good inclination, though, when he says it's more preventative than anything and expects him to be back soon. But none of these guys need to play in this first preseason game. It's a chance for some of those young guys to make an impression. Zach Collaros, not expected to play on Friday night. That stinks for the home fans, but again, you want him healthy and good to go when the games really matter. And that's June 10th with the Ottawa Red Blacks. Paul Lapalisse and our old friends, Darvin
That'll be a
Adams.
nice thing. Of course, they never played them last year, so that's nice. And then, of course, you mentioned the May 31st, the rescheduled game against Saskatchewan, the arch rivals, the Prairie Province. That'll be televised by TSN, which is nice to see.
Are you sure? I didn't think it was.
I thought they said that game was, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm pretty sure because I'm usually right.
I'll hold you to that. Okay.
That was going to be televised. One of the 4 games that was potentially televised. And again, because they have such high viewership on the Prairie Provinces right now. So, but it's interesting. I want to go back to one thing here. And I know we're beating this horse, but this is the main thing. Derek Taylor, the voice, I believe, of the Bombers now, I believe, he just said the same thing. He's put a little tweet out there going, if the issue before was the 49%, how are the players actually going to accept the 49% now?
Right.
Why would they accept it? Are you going to tell me they're only going to accept it because they've got more money in ratification? And they have the opportunity to expand it in 2024?
That is a good point.
It is
I wonder though, Chris, it got voted down, but we also know Simone Lawrence put out a tweet that night saying 30% of guys didn't vote. We asked Adam Bighill, he said, because other people had heard 35%, like a third of the guys didn't vote. This is their livelihood. That's surprising. I wonder if there was sentiment there, Chris, that, it's like, oh, you know what? They recommend it. It's probably going to go through. We're fine. Guys focused on, resting and getting ready, battling through their camp legs, especially some of those younger guys that are trying to secure their job and that sort of thing. So Adam Bighill was asked, is it 30, 35%? He said, yeah, right around in there. If they don't get 80 to 90% at least voting on this tonight, there's a bigger problem at hand here. And with that bigger vote turnout, I expect maybe a lot more Americans to vote, Chris, and for those players to maybe say, I'm okay with that. So we got to remember, more than half the league is American. It is the Canadian Football League. It is, Brian Ramsey's the executive director of the PA. Adam Bighill's on that. Adam Bighill, of course, is a Canadian resident, but is an American. Solomon Elamimian, the president of the PA, he's an American. So both sides are, they need to be represented by that Players Association.
That is an excellent point, Darrin. The fact is, there's so much American voting power. They, they outnumber the Canadians. I mean, the fact is, the Nationals and these imports, they can actually vote for it all. I know that the first-year guys don't get a vote. Any rookies don't get a vote. You have to be on that club before to vote, but still, it's in their best interest as an American player to vote for this rule. Your odds of playing now have greatly jumped up. Yeah. Adam Bighill could be considered a national. Willie Jefferson could be considered a national.
There's a lot of guys.
Those 3 guys in 2 years could all be nationals.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So there's 3 guys, but I still want to see, are they adding 2 rather than subtracting from the nationals that have to start? That's what I want to find out, because if you're adding question. 2, okay, I can see maybe players will say, okay, but if you're taking away 3 spots, I can't see it working. I can't see the players accepting that at all.
So I want to go back to the other sticking point when it came to this collective bargaining agreement, Chris, and that was the padded practices. The players wanted more long-term care. I talked to Greg Ellingson. You can hear my interview with Greg Ellingson or watch it as well on bonfiresports.ca and the YouTube channel. He brought up Jonathan Hefney. Now, if they take care of guys for 3 years, that's one thing. But if you need continued surgeries or continued rehabilitation or continued therapy, physical therapy, whatever type of therapy, the players wanted to ensure those guys are protected much more than they already were. So they're like, if you want 12 padded practices through the year, you have to extend that health care. I want to ask you this though, Chris. You were an O-lineman. Everybody who I've talked to about this says the padded practices are to the benefit of the offense and defensive linemen, those guys in the trenches. They're doing unpadded practices right now, Chris, and the helmets are still smacking. So now they're going to wear shoulder pads, and it's actually like the swim moves and the rip moves, the blocking, the grabbing the chest plate. Tell me about how important that is for the guys.
I think you hit on the head. I'm just going to repeat what you said, but I think as an O-line defensive line, you have to get that in right now, because when you're doing padded practice and you're just kind of going through this, the fancy steps, making sure you got your hands in the right spot, you're going through the motions. But guys are kind of making contact, like you say, with the helmet, and then they're basically stopping. You're not going full go. So when you get in the game, sometimes if you get beat early, especially as an O-lineman, now you start, you got that doubt in your head. I wanted to work on that in practice. How do I work on that in practice if I'm not in pads? But that is an excellent point you brought up, though, about the fact that they say, you know what? Listen, if you want to have more padded practices, increase the long term of our healthcare. And Jonathan Heffney is an absolutely wonderful example. And you know, I mean, I feel so bad for the young man. You know, obviously incarcerated because of a situation where he had to do what he had to do to get money to pay for his bills, medical bills.
Yeah. I mean, that goes well beyond the CFL, right? Like that's an American healthcare issue. That's a social issue. That's obviously in Heffney's case a personal issue.
I'm not putting it all on the healthcare and but I do know, even as a player in the 16 years I played, a lot of guys would get hurt during the year, and as long as they, you know, it was before that cutoff deadline, they let them go. So you could be injured and gone. Yeah, and there's no pay. That's one thing I keep saying. I mean, I know they're talking about Edmonton when we're talking about, you know, the big receiver we lost, you know, Kenny Lawler, $300,000, highest paid receiver. They're making a big
zero guaranteed.
No guarantee. Exactly. I could sign $1 million contract tomorrow. And I know that was one of the sticking points they wanted to have too, right? They wanted to have some sort of a partial guarantee salary. So even if they get injured or something, they've got some money to lay back on. And I think that's an interesting point for me.
Yeah, so Kenny Lawler made more money signing with Edmonton. BC offered him some, you know, like in excess of $250,000, but with some guaranteed money. Yeah. Kenny Lawler could get cut after tomorrow's game, after Friday's game, and that's that, right? Yep. He won't collect a single dime. But you know, I was told today by Elks broadcaster Morley Scott that he's looked good in practice. Yep. Same thing we saw here in Winnipeg. He's got sticky hands. He's going to be a target for whomever their starting quarterback is. It's interesting to note, though, Bombers' top pick in the 2022 draft, Tyrell Ford, playing defensive back. Well, he's going to have an opportunity, if in the game early, to face his brother. Trey Ford's going to get the start in Winnipeg on Friday night, Chris. That's a tasty storyline. A Canadian dual threat quarterback. He's getting snap number 1 in his first season.
You know what? Not to be, I'm a proud Canuck. You're a proud Canuck. I'm loving to see these guys like Nathan Rourke in BC, you know, the Fords in Edmonton, getting an opportunity to showcase their talents. And that's another reason I think it's fantastic. You know, when you get guys like this that can get out there on a big stage, and I guess this kid was in camp early in Edmonton, a quarterback, learning the plays, and I know Coach Jones he gushes about this guy, the talent he has. He got a strong arm. He's got a good presence in the huddle. You know, you probably figure that Arbuckle will still be the starter, but you never know. You know, maybe that Taylor or Cornelius again. You know, they just have so many things. It'll be interesting for me. I saw on the backup, I see somebody put up a backup for Colaris.
Yeah. And Johnny Boy wants to know.
He threw that ball deep into the bucket.
Yeah.
Pretty good accuracy on that, man.
Yeah, and a nice looking ball too, you know, tight.
And he's got experience. That's the thing. I think
this is his 5th year in the Canadian Football League. He's played for a couple teams. He understands the CFL game and different offenses. I've been told by a lot of people that the defensive system, especially in Winnipeg, is complicated. It is not easy to pick up. That's why new guys sign here in Winnipeg. They're not in right away. They got to study. But the offense under offensive coordinator Buck Pierce, who shined like crazy, like a beautiful star, and it helps when you have the leading receiver and the best quarterback and a great offensive line and Andrew Harris and the rest. But man, what a first season as offensive coordinator in the CFL for Buck Pierce. Dakota Prukup, I think, has the inside track over Drew Brown, who was, you know, a backup and on the practice roster through 2021, Chris.
That to me is going to be the battle, Darrin, for third string. I believe it'll be between Mancuso and Brown.
Right.
We saw Brown last year. I'm not trying to say I didn't get a huge look at him, but when he was in there, I didn't see anything that really excited me. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to watch that battle quite intensely to see if it's Brown or Mancuso has to get that third string.
Yeah, I think they really like Drew Brown. If they don't like you after a year,
that's true.
You're probably not hanging around, right? Like, I understand they like Sean McGuire, and he hung around for a couple seasons, right, including through the pandemic.
I think head coach Mike O'Shea is a guy that really lets a player develop, even if he struggles. And I'm thinking more specifically now when you look at the two kickers, right? You know, Mortada and Legio. I mean, both struggled, but evidently, from what you said and what I've read, Mortada's kicking the ball extremely well. And, but there's a guy that in any other situation, Bud, would be gone.
Right.
But Coach O'Shea believes in his players. He gives them an opportunity. It's not It's not like the league across the water there, across the border where, you miss a field goal, you're gone.
Right.
But it's also the NFL is nice when you can get a quarterback down there. I think with the Cleveland Browns who signed $45 million contract guaranteed.
Right.
I mean, to me, I'm like, man, starting.
Well, hey, a brewery, man, oh man,
Yeah.
you could buy Budweiser after a few years in the league with
no
that.
kidding.
But yeah, I mean, like, look, guys want to get to the league. You'd never blame a player for wanting to get to the National Football League and take care of their family long term. But here in Winnipeg, Chris, there's going to be a lot of position battles. Quarterback, of course, during the preseason is the one we'll watch extremely closely. Very unlikely Zach Collaros will play Friday night. But let's talk about some of the other position groups. Like you talk about kicker, well, there's no real competition, right? They got Murtada on place kicking duties. He can absolutely crush it on kickoffs as well. I think they like that about him. Mark Leggio back for a second season. He's going to handle punting as the Canadian. Running back is one area that gets a lot of Bombers fans fired up, Chris. And I will paraphrase. Why doesn't Johnny Augustine get more work? Why isn't he running back one? His yards per carry average is over 7. What say you in this battle of young tailbacks in Brady Oliveira and Johnny Augustine?
I think Oliveira's just got he's coming to camp. He's in great shape. I mean, a lot of things I like about him is also his off-field things, rescuing dogs and stuff. But I like Brady. Augustine's more of a Mike Pringle type running back to me. Hard runner, north-south, punish you as he gets, where I think Oliveira is a little bit more shifty in the backfield. I think it's a great combination. I think they're very blessed to have two guys of this talent. And then, of course, I said this on Twitter one time, and some guy said, what about Borsa? Like he wanted to make sure hey, don't forget about this kid. This kid played pretty good,
talented
in
young
university ball.
Yep.
So they've got a plethora, you like that word there, of Canadian talent there at the running back position.
I think it's going to be a running back by committee this year. And I think Kyle Borsa will be involved, but I think it's going to be a 1-2 punch, a 1A, 1B. Brady Oliveira might be atop my depth chart. You can grab that in the news section on bonfiresports.ca and download your depth chart. The Blue Bombers have put out their positional roster, but if you want a better picture of where guys fit in, hit up bonfiresports.ca.
There you go.
Oliveira might be RB1 on the depth chart, but I don't see him getting it's not going to be an Andrew Harris Brady Oliveira combo. It's not going to be a Andrew Harris Johnny Augustine combo. It's going to be thunder and lightning, or however you want to colorfully put it with the Blue Bombers. I think there's going to be a lot of Johnny Augustine and a lot of Brady Oliveira. These guys are working after practice. They know the shoes they have to fill. Sure. In the absence of Andrew Harris. Yeah, like nobody, like similar to Bob Irving, nobody's ever going to fill those shoes, but these are good, young, talented individuals that care and are putting in the work, to be the next
for the opportunity. And then you figure in, you throw in Nick Dembski, who they put in the backfield a lot of times, and they do a lot of sweeps and stuff like that, quick pitches and shovel passes to him. Again, another Canadian that I thought just had an outstanding year last year. And I think he's only going to get better and better as he gets more experience in this league. But the sky's the limit for that guy, the way he makes plays and breaks tackles. And, we've seen so many games where he gets behind people. And it just, a big play, and he takes it all the way for a touchdown. So, and then, of course, the guy you got to talk about, Mr. Consistent over there, doesn't get a lot of ink, Wolodarski.
Yep.
He is really steady over there, makes big plays, doesn't get a lot of balls thrown in his direction. And then you got another guy that I think is, and especially with the hash marks. Remember, we moved our hash marks in now. So there's really no short side and wide side of the field. It's kind of an interesting thing there. And you got a guy by the name of, Greg Ellingson, who potentially an all-star every year. I think
he's a 1,000-yard guy every year.
And I think he led Edmonton last year in receiving, and he was injured a little bit.
Yeah, he only played 10 this week. Yeah,
but
he only played 10 games.
Oh, he's a game changer. That's that guy, and I know that Coach O'Shea has been raving about him and just what he brings. Not so worried that he hasn't practiced, because he says he knows what he brings in the games. So, I mean, and then you look at that O-line, DB.
Yep.
I mean, Jeff Gray getting an opportunity.
You got to replace Drew Desjardins, who signed with the New England Patriots in the offseason. And best of luck to him. Great Canadian
it's going to be
football
very
story.
interesting, though, DB. New England drafted the guard first round.
But you know how training camps go.
Oh, I know.
You can win a battle. Injuries happen. You never know how it'll shake out. But, I'm sure his, relatively speaking, his dollar value compared to a first-round draft pick is going to be a little bit more attractive. I don't think they're going to cut their first-round draft pick. But having him there is interesting. So, look, we got Liam Dobson, who things did not work. Things did not work out for him in the USFL. If you missed that storyline, he had work visa issues because the USFL did not have a gross revenue number of 10 million plus. He couldn't get a work visa to work for that company. You sign a contract in the USFL with the league, not with a team. So he was drafted, he signed, then drafted by a team and unable to play in that league. He wants to get to the NFL. He is a road grader type, Chris. I know you know that kind. Miles Garrell comes to mind. Big, nasty, low to the ground, an interesting player that I think Winnipeg is very fortunate to have this year to push Jeff Gray, who's been here for a number of years already, but hasn't been able to steal a starting spot. You mix in Chris Kolinkowski, a returning Canadian, Ben Koswara. Maybe those guys will be backups to Michael Couture at center, or Pat Neufeld, who hasn't practiced a lot in training camp either. That battle is going to be won in these two preseason games, if you ask me.
And this offensive line, you mentioned they lost Desjardins to New England, but look at the core. Pat Neufeld, Jamarcus Hardrock, who I said last year really was a very tight race for me as far as most outstanding lineman between him and Stanley Bryant. Stanley Bryant's just so consistent. Game in, game out, he's just solid. I love the way Hardrick plays. He is the energizer bunny out there. He's always running. I see that, Jeff Gray's picking up that habit too, being downfield all the time, staying with your blocks.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious to see this Dobson kid play because, as you say, a road grader type, a big body, 350
big personality,
pounds.
Big personality. He'd give you a run for his money.
He's very confident. I mean, you got to be confident coming in here. Obviously, you look at that. I mean, and then you got Couture, who doesn't get all the respect, but he was a CFLPA All-Star, voted on by the players, which is one of the nicest awards because it's not done by media, but it's done by your fellow players that you play against, which means, to me, that's even a higher recognition sometimes. But
Chris,
I do got so much talent on that offensive line.
Well, same old story with the offensive line. I expect them to be the tone setter in this offense, as they always have been. Quick question here from James. What happened with the new punter, Tom Hackett?
Yeah.
Aside, love his Twitter handle, Tom Can't Hack It. Love that. But yeah, global draft pick, was here for a little bit. And then when there was that labor uncertainty with the CBA, he went back home to be with his family. He's got some things going on down there. He has not written off coming back to the CFL. He is a two-time Ray Guy Award winner as the top punter in the entire NCAA. That ain't nothing. That's 2 times he's won it. And a handful of NFL and a lot of professional kickers have won it in the past. Maybe down the road, we'll see what happens with Tom Hackett. Be sure to hit up the live chat, everybody, if you got questions for me.
That was a great question by James, who asked what happened to punter. And actually, I didn't know where he had gone. I know that I saw his picture with the trophy, Ray Guy trophy. The Ray Guy was the most prolific punter, the best punter probably in the history of the NFL. I think he played for the Oakland Raiders back then. So
he's no Bob Cameron, though. No Bob Cameron.
No, Bob, listen, there's a couple of guys that are super. Bob Cameron is the best punter. I think Louis Pasaglia, probably a field goal kicker. I'll throw Troy in there. Troy has played 19 years too. Troy is very good, Troy Westwood.
Yep.
But though, I mean, there's a handful of guys that I think really deserve that kind of recognition. Bob, obviously, for sure. Best bad weather kicker I've ever seen. The way he can teach and drop a ball in the wind and still get the ball off and they travel at some good distance. So
Justin Medlock, I would maybe put in there. Medlock, the master, and then Robo kicker.
Medlock,
Who was Robo kicker in Saskatchewan?
Oh my God, yes, number 36. Come on, baby.
Oh, I
was with him in Montreal.
I'm gonna look it up.
I was with him in Montreal. And I was joking. We were at when I was with the Alouettes back in '81, and we were having lunch. And I joked. I said, "Hey, did you see the coach wants you to bring in your playbook?" And he looks at me and he goes, "What?" 10 minutes later, the coach. I was just kidding. 10 minutes later, the coach goes, "Coach wants to see you bring your playbook." Dave Ridgway.
Dave Ridgway.
There you go, buddy.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
PA split, banana split, says McCallum. Think about McCallum.
Yeah, well, McCallum is famous for the wrong reason, and that was a dump truck of manure on his front yard. But we digress. I want to talk about receiver a little bit more, Chris, before we switch to the defense. And thanks for everybody for joining us live here, whether you're watching on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Obviously, if you're not able to stay for the whole show, you can watch it later on our YouTube channel, on Facebook, and on Twitter as well. It'll be up on all major podcast platforms. So wherever you listen to your podcasts, it's going to be available there as well. Be sure to join us for Game Day After Dark, a little bit after the game, like not immediately. We're going to have a post-game show here live and in person on Bonfire Sports. Before we get to the defense, Chris, you mentioned
I want to jump in, right? First off, I got to do this. This is my appropriate time to jump in. First off, I think the viewers who are watching us have to really understand the work that you put into putting this together. We did Bonfire Sports last year.
Yep.
And you've just upgraded immensely. This is a very, very nice platform. I just love it. I mean, it's very, you've put a lot of good work in here, and I know you put a lot of time into it. So I think you should be congratulated on it for what you've done here, man.
Look, truly, it is my pleasure, like, to be able to talk football and, express my passion for this game as much as fans express it back to us, Chris, to have somebody like you, to have somebody like Zach Schnitzer on Bonfire MidWeek to work with. It's a heck of a lot of fun to cover this team. And, we'll see what happens in the future. I've got big plans for Bonfire Sports and hoping to continue to expand, but appreciate the compliment, Chris. Like, look, technology today allows us to do these things. If you're interested in sponsoring Bonfire Sports or sponsoring Game Day Winnipeg, reach out, give me a shout. You can hit us up anytime. Hit up the hotline right there. 204-816-TIPS, 816-8477. Drop a text, leave a voicemail. Questions, comments, whatever you got. We're going to even play some of them on the show. So
it's very interactive. That's what I love. I love the interactive part.
Okay, so you mentioned Drew Wolodarski doesn't get a lot of ink. I think he's going to be getting a little bit of ink this year, Chris, but maybe not for the same reasons he got the ink in the Grey Cup. Like, he was really good in the Grey Cup, very close to winning top Canadian. It was really a toss-up between him and Nick Dembski. Dembski just had that nice cut and scored the touchdown that helped force overtime. I think Drew Wolodarski is going to get seriously pushed this year by Brendan O'Leary Orange.
Yes.
Now, his dad played in the CFL, 4 years for the Toronto Argonauts. We had Gregory, our good friend Gregory Liverpool, spew the Wikipedia on Doyle Orange, Brendan O'Leary Orange's dad, but he was awesome as a tailback for the Toronto Argonauts back in the day. O'Leary Orange was kind of like, maybe he fell a little bit in the 2021 draft. Started to make some impression in training camp last year. He has been good in limited time in training camp this year. He has been nicked up. And Chris, what do you say about guys that can't be healthy during training camp?
Well, you know the old saying, don't make the club in a tub, baby. And that's the thing that really kills a lot of careers. It's a career killer. If you're not on the field and you're trying to earn a spot, it's very difficult for you to showcase your talent.
Yeah.
And if you're a guy that's getting nicked on a regular basis, that's an asterisk by your name. And the coaches, when they're looking at keeping somebody, go, you know what, we want to keep this guy, but, second year in a row, he's hurt. Man, do we put him on the practice roster? I mean, the one thing that people have to understand, when you're bringing this many guys into training camp, you got 80 guys or whatever it is now, and then you get as many rookies playing what you have to do, you're not only showcasing your talent to the coaches here, you're showcasing your talent to every coach in the CFL.
Yes.
Because some teams may lack depth at that receiver or the Canadian receiver. Maybe Brendan O'Leary Orange decides, he plays, and they decide to put him on a practice roster. Other teams can scoop this guy up. And that's the nice thing about allowing these guys to develop. But as I say, if you're going to get nicked, it really does hurt your opportunities. You try. I know they try. It's all about staying healthy. They've got a lot of wet weather right now. I mean, Winnipeg is being a lot, with the snow and the rain and everything, but still, stay healthy, and you got a great opportunity to crack the lineup, at least stay with the team in some aspect.
Yep, that's right. I think the Winnipeg Blue Bombers would be foolhardy to leave Brendan O'Leary Orange floating on the practice roster.
Yeah.
He is dripping with talent and ability. Played at Nevada in the NCAA, and these are good problems. They're problems, but they're good problems, Chris. Drew Wolodarski, Nick Dembski, and Brendan O'Leary Orange, that's a really talented trio. This is no knock on Drew Wolodarski. He's an excellent player, and he showed it time and time again. Clutch, yeah. Remember that layout catch he made? I think that was in at home last season. These are good
getting
problems.
A lot of recognition for strumming the old guitar.
Well, there's that too. His personality. He's a glue guy in the room, right?
Oh yeah. I watched his off season. He was all over camping and climbing mountains and doing a lot of different things and getting to know the earth. You gotta like the guy. You gotta like the atmosphere and what he's bringing to this team. And like I said, you're right. When you got a Ellingson, you got a Wolodarski, you got a O'Leary Orange, you got a Dembski, 4 potential starters on any other team. It's just so much talent. And then you got, like you say, you could put Brady Oliveira outside. He could be a slot back. You know what I mean? He could
Johnny
Dembski. That's one thing that O'Shea loves about Buck Pierce's offense. Mm-hmm. Everything is interchangeable.
Yes.
I can put guys here. I can put guys there. You don't have to worry about. I heard somebody was talking about, what about guys that don't know how to waggle? Well, they learn how to waggle when they play slot. Yeah, it's more stand up when you're playing outside, but still, everybody gets an opportunity because the way Buck Pierce likes to run it is have you guessing what they're going to do. And when you got an offensive line like this and a quarterback like Zach, really, when you look at this team, buddy, I know we haven't talked about DBs and stuff like that, and Mercy Maston, the guy, bad injury again, but
yeah,
so much depth on this club. And again, we have to give credit to Kyle Walters, who just did an outstanding job once again of bringing back these veterans. I mean, they want to play here. This is a beautiful thing.
There's no question about that. Guys want to play in Winnipeg. They'll take the pay cut. They want another ring. You and I were talking about a little bit before the show, Chris, that all the season ticket holders are getting a replica ring this year, which is pretty cool. But there's what?
Oh, man.
What?
I know it's all about merchandise. How much is it costing the club? We're talking about money when the club can't, I mean, but is it a replica ring? Is it just like a bubblegum thing, or it's? I don't know. I mean,
it's not the same as it's not a cheap version of what the players get. It's a replica ring, right? It's made out of.
I saw a guy when we were doing autographs at Alumni Alley last year. I had so many fans coming with the last ring, showing me the rings, and I'm like, my God, it drives me nuts. I'm sorry. I'm one of these guys that say it's an honor to get a ring. I'd say if you could give him a pennant or I don't know, something different. The ring
fans, I mean, they buy your jerseys. You get your jersey.
When they play for the Bombers, they're gonna have rings everywhere. Mind you, I am waiting because I'm a season ticket holder. I want to see if I get my ring now. Hey, number 4 replica, 3 real and a 1 replica.
Yeah. Shout out to James in the chat. Look. A lot of people reaching out about merchandise and the apparel, the Bonfire hats, the shirts, everything. Going to do my best. We got to get the programming straightened away here. Chris, you join me. Zach joins me as well. But it is, a bit of a one-man show over here, a bit of a lone wolf. So I'm doing the best I can to get the content out to you guys first and foremost. That's the most important thing. But hopefully we can get some apparel going in the future. There's some other... Hey?
Look at Andre Harms. We could put Walby as a slot back. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I put that up there.
I played fullback for Willard Reeves. Short yardage. Fullback.
Like the fridge.
That was the era of the fridge from Chicago Bears.
Well, hey, it's a copycat. In there. Yeah. Copycat football, right?
It was an interesting concept that didn't last more than a game, but it was interesting at the time. Just great to block for a guy like Willard Reeves. He was one of the best that ever played. So, yeah, it's interesting. Slot back, nah. I used to think I could play tight end because I got to tell you, for an old lineman, I had some pretty sticky fingers, man. I could catch.
Now, you played D-line in college and your first year in the CFL with the Montreal Alouettes. I know that.
Right. That's right, yeah.
Did you play tight end like when you were with the Winnipeg Rods?
No, I was just, I think no. I think I was guard, just played off. No, I was defensive tackle. Thanks for remembering what I'm doing there, eh, buddy? Too many hits in the head. Yeah, I was defensive tackle. Yeah, I remember that. What a good looking guy. Long hair, no teeth. Oh, I was a magnet on the women's cycle there. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah. So having some interesting joining the chat there, but anyway, doing the best I can to block some of this. But Chris, there's I don't know. I don't know what we'll get it straightened out. But listen, there's other receivers in Blue Bombers training camp that are hoping to make an impression. We know Rasheed Bailey will be in the starting lineup. We know Greg Ellingson, Nick Dembski, Drew Olatarski. Those Canadians will be pushed by Brendan O'Leary Orange. But there is another spot up for grabs. Is it Blake Jackson, the guy who was the darling of 2021 training camp, but suffered a season-ending injury? Is it the darling of the 2022 training camp, Dalton Schoen out of K-State, Kansas State? Is it BJ Muckelveen, who has not been healthy the last few days, hasn't been able to practice, but he made some things happen in camp? Is it the 6'8" pass catcher and deep threat Carlton Agadosi, who saw some limited action last year and was on the practice roster? Kelvin McKnight, as well as Janarian Grant, two absolute burner speedsters that will probably factor into the return game this season. Is it one of those guys that's going to be fighting for a job? I think that's why Winnipeg was comfortable moving on from the veteran Jalen Saunders.
Yeah, that was interesting. I thought it was a great signing when they picked up Jalen Saunders, because when he played for the Ticats before he got hurt, he was having a breakout year. He was really, I think he was a CFL All-Star. He made things happen out there. And now all of a sudden we signed him at Winnipeg. I thought, well, there's another great competition. That's the other thing about it, DB, is that players talk. Everybody talks. So guys will say, hey, Rasheed Bailey, how's Winnipeg? How do you like it? And, all the players are going to tell you it's first class. The meals, the way they take care of you, the training staff, the practice schedules, the coach. And by that, I mean the coach, the loyalty of them. Protect the umbrella. Keep everything in-house. They don't. Right. You'll never hear them. You'll never hear O'Shea or any of those coaches, as a matter of fact, go to town on a player. They're basically, no, we'll handle it in-house if we have to say anything to them. They're just they're very diplomatic. I think they create that atmosphere, that culture. We used that word a lot last year, but they did. And I think players want to play here. And I think there's some other players that say, hey, you know what? We actually see the Bombers as an opportunity to be three-peat. This is an opportunity for maybe to get on a roster that could win a Grey Cup ring.
Yes.
So forget about what they did in 2019 and 21. It's just a fresh start. But they've got so many players back. I mean, you're talking about your Willie Jeffersons. You're talking about, Adam Bighill, Kyrie Wilson. They just got talent. And, of course, you got Winston Rose and, Nichols, Dietrich Nichols. I mean, they got some players in here.
Yeah.
And anytime you can bring this many, a nucleus of your players back, you're starting off at a better spot because they also know the system. It's the Richie Hall system again. It's the Buck Pierce system again. So you're coming back old hat.
Yeah,
and that helps. A lot of these vets I don't think will play in the first game against Edmonton because of the fact they know the offense already. Let's see if the other guys have had their, head in the notebook or the playbook. That way.
Big shout out to everybody joining us here on GameDay Winnipeg and in the live chat, watching on Twitter, Facebook Live, and YouTube as well. Everything will be available via podcast, in the coming, frankly, in just about an hour or two. But Chris, you mentioned the defensive back, so let's shift to that side of the football and, what we're seeing in camp. There's two things we know about the Blue Bombers defensive secondary, okay? We know Winston Rose and Dietrich Nichols, as well as Tyquan Glass, a veteran from Edmonton last season, and Nick Taylor. Those are the corners and the halfbacks. That's the one thing we know. The other thing we know is Brandon Alexander will not start the season healthy enough to play. Injured in the Grey Cup. And had off-season surgery, stayed in Winnipeg through our worst winter in my lifetime, probably yours as well, Chris. I know there was 1986. I was alive for that. There were some bad ones, but I don't know. You weren't around for 56, I don't think. Don't answer that. But anyway, so with no Brandon Alexander, it looks like Canadian Nick Hallett will start at safety to begin the season. And then there's been an individual watching with Brandon Alexander, with Noah Hallett, Nick's brother. He's been nicked up as well and will miss probably the start of the season. And that is a Canadian rookie named Donald Rutledge Jr. He wears number 38. He is scheduled. He's not scheduled to play actually on Friday, which is interesting. Oh, I forgive me, Chris. They have him with the linebackers. So Donald Rutledge Jr. will be playing, and he's been watching at safety all throughout camp with Brandon Alexander, with Noah Hallett, shadow repping, watching everything from the back of the defense, learning this complicated Richie Hall system, and working with defensive backs coach Jordan Younger. Mercy Maston went down. Canadian Retta Cramdy filled in immediately, but the next day, when they had a chance to kind of settle in and take their breath, it was Donald Rutledge Jr. working with the first team defense at the dime, the strong side linebacker spot, that hybrid DB linebacker spot. If they got to start a rookie in the defensive secondary, that's a tough place for game number one.
Yeah, it is. But I think the fact that you talked about Rutledge Jr. and the fact that it obviously shadowing, learning the safety position, number one, now coming down to the dime or the strong side linebacker position, there's, again, another example of versatility in the defense. The more you can do, the more opportunity you have.
Yeah. No question about that.
That's pretty funny. I think that, I think the Mercy Maston thing, and we can only hope that I still don't have any feedback on it. I know they took him off.
Well, this is what my gut tells me. Mike O'Shea has talked about it a couple times. It could be. It could be. I didn't see the injury. I saw it. I saw his Achilles injury in 2021 training camp, but I didn't see it this year. I just missed it at camp with 100 guys on the field. But they carted him off, and then no update for the next couple days. And then Mike O'Shea put it pretty simply. He goes, "I'm not going to provide an update on Mercy Maston for several days." That tells me it's serious. Winston Rose was wearing Mercy Maston's number 7 at practice the next day as kind of a tip of the cap or an homage to his downed teammate. But it sounds like, if you read between the lines, it is a serious injury for Mercy Maston, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. He is a all-star caliber player. I mentioned this on Bonfire Midweek last night, Chris. I had a CFL GM tell me after the 2019 Blue Bombers Grey Cup run that not Adam Bighill, not Willie Jefferson, it was Mercy Maston who might have been the most impactful player on that Blue Bombers defense. Remember how they were kind of meddling through the end of the regular season, and then a switch flipped and they were suddenly lights out and rolling through the playoffs to a dominant Grey Cup win in Calgary over the Ticats.
I believe he had an interception in that game as well, in that Grey Cup game.
Mercy was a monster in that game. And so we got James, who was probably at training camp, saying he was backpedaling and dropped when he shifted sideways. So if it was a non-contact injury, you hate to see it being long-term. Mercy Maston is a huge loss. Like, he's on the caliber of a Brandon Alexander, of a Winston Rose, of a Dietrich Nichols, of that all-star caliber. Huge hit. But we'll see how Winnipeg, can buoy themselves through the loss of Mercy Maston, and we'll keep people updated as well if anything arises out of that. But hey, look, you talk about the linebackers, Chris. Kyrie Wilson, Adam Bighill, reigning CFL most outstanding defensive player. I don't know how old he is. 31, whatever. He's playing like a 25-year-old, absolutely full of energy. The emotional leader of this team, the character leader of this team, and probably the on-field leader as kind of the quarterback of the defense, calling things right in the middle. And a Kyrie Wilson coming back with a lot of experience in this system and in the CFL. They are stout at linebacker. I don't know if there's a better duo in the league right now than Bighill and Wilson.
Yeah, they play extremely well off each other. They do a lot of blitzing packages. You have to know what one guy's doing. A lot of gap control. To answer your question, Adam Bighill will be 34. But yeah, you're right. He plays like a youngster. He's always in fantastic shape. Not a big guy with the heavy weights. A lot of plyometrics, a lot of stretching exercises. He feels that, keeps his body more pliable and able to, get through these 18-game schedules. and then you look at a guy. I wanted to bring this up because I was just looking at my old roster from the Grey Cup, and a guy that I know is still back in Germany that, we're talking about Theodric Hansen, who really played well.
Yeah.
Again, remember the hits on special teams, and obviously filled in extremely well at defensive end, and wasn't going to come back because he felt like the way the league was set up, the global players were not going to get the same minimum as the Canadian or nationals or whatever, Americans, whatever the salary cap was or the minimum. Now they've changed that. So I'm wondering if he's going to think about coming back. I actually would think that a guy like that, the way he's played, probably the best global player that's been in the CFL for a number of years, even though he only done a couple of years.
No, hands down.
And by a lot of teams. Somebody's going to pay him money to come back.
That's if he wants to play. Right. And he's been doing awesome work, like, helping refugees from Ukraine come back to Poland and relocate to obviously being in a war-torn country. I can't imagine, how difficult that must be for those people, but good on somebody who I was always impressed with on and off the field in Theodric Hansen. Of course, Jonathan Kongbo left as well this year. He signed in the National Football League. Not a lot of people talk about Jonathan Kongbo. They talk about, DeAndre Alford signing with the Atlanta Falcons. They talk about Chris Streveler and if he's going to ever come back. Winston Rose back with Winnipeg now and signing on for another year is good. But Jonathan Kongbo, as a Canadian, was a really nice, versatile piece to rotate in on that defensive line, played a little inside, played a lot of outside. It made things easier for Jake Thomas. You take away Theodric Hansen, you take away Jonathan Kongbo, what are you left with? You're left with Jake Thomas as a Canadian, Casey Sales back, Ricky Walker back. That's good. Cedric Wilcox cut in training camp last year. He's shown some good things on the edge. But when it comes to the middle of the field, like, what do you have at Canadian next to Jake Thomas? You got you got a couple Canadians, but unproven commodities for the most part.
Yeah, the guy from Montreal they traded for Cameron Lawson, I think his name is.
That's right.
Youngster. He's had played a couple years in Montreal. But you're right. I think that the fact that they had Jonathan Kongbo and I'm saying this because I'm throwing in Theodric as a global. They had a lot of opportunity to juggle that line and give guys a lot of keep them fresh. They would do sets. So I mean, for me, I'm looking at it right now and I'm looking at what they have. Like you got Jake Thomas and you got Cam Lawson. You got a ton of Americans. Adamson is a Canadian.
Winnipegger.
Yeah. Oh, okay. There you go. Is he one of the?
He's a Manitoba Bison, and and came out of the Winnipeg high school football as well. Great family, good friends of mine. Actually, we dog sit for Cole's parents, but I digress on that. This is my favorite thing. Like Ed Tate of Winnipeg Blue Bombers .com or BlueBombers.com. He mentioned that his kids grew up with Cole and the Adamson brothers, and Cole's nickname in high school was Mr. Adamson because he was an absolute huge man as a teenager. So that was his nickname, was hello, Mr. Adamson. How are you? How's the wife and kids? That's a pretty great nickname for a guy that is got the stature of a professional football player, but likely he'll go back to school and not be on the roster this year. That's likely, but not for sure. Cam Lawson and Jake Thomas, like those guys need to stay healthy. They need to play at a good level in order for Winnipeg to kind of keep the ratio where they have it right now.
Yeah, I think that's one of the nice things. But again, when you have the linebackers that this team has, you get away with a lot of stuff. The fact that you can bring guys from a safety position and play, on the outside or inside, weak side linebacker. Again, I'm talking about the fact that the hash marks got moved in, I believe, 7 yards each side.
Yeah, they're now 9 yards apart instead of
9 yards apart. So look at the field you have to work with now, right? I mean, I think it'll really help the kickers for sure, right? If you kick it for the hash mark.
Everybody's been talking about the kickers. I don't think you're wrong, but I think it's going to change the offense dramatically. Like I really, really do. You're going to see a lot more options to both sides of the field because even if the ball is on one hash, not like right in the middle of the field, if it's on the hash, and usually is because that's where most of the field is. It's definitely going to be more on the hash this year than ever because there's more field to each side of it. But when you got 63 and a half yard wide football field and the ball more likely to the middle now on the snap, you don't have to work to just one side of the field if you need a guy to gain the edge. A lot more is going to change behind the line of scrimmage. A lot is going to change deeper downfield. I think it's going to be a huge adjustment for defenses, to plan for. Buck Pierce is going to get creative. He's going to get really creative with guys like Dembski and with Janarian Grant and the jet sweep and all those things they like to do, and checking it out of the backfield and guards pulling and lots of things happening.
Misdirection, a lot of misdirection.
It's going to be interesting.
I know you're talking about a lot of the passing game, and it used to be short side field. And that was like Drew was always a short side receiver. They'd go every once in a while to him. But now that you got a wide side on both sides, the run game will be extremely different too. You can pull guards one way, run the other side. You can play a lot more games. I think the counter plays are going to come back. The Bombers don't really run a lot of counters. And I think they're going to run a lot more this year. The fact that they've got this opening thing, I think they've got a guy. When you had Andrew Harris, they just pounded it. And this offensive line was just basically, they were getting 5-6 yards of crack. Very rarely did they get stuffed. And now you got a guy, I think, in Brady, who's a lot quicker, and I think younger and healthier than obviously Andrew Harris. I knew that came into play. And then you got a guy that I think you can just turn around and play bulldozer. And actually he's got great speed too. I think he averaged like 7.1 yards a carry last year.
Yep.
Very effective when he gets the ball. I want to see this Borsa kid. I want to see Borsa play. I'm curious because I read his resume, quite impressive at the university level. Getting an opportunity. I think they thought that he might go to Saskatchewan. I believe he's out of Saskatchewan. And I think they thought he might go back to Saskatchewan. So once again, we steal a Prairie boy here.
Yeah, University of Regina. So his teammate, linebacker Robbie Lowe's, injured in training camp, and they've since released him. That was probably a serious injury as well. But Kyle Borsa, tailback for the Regina Rams, I was able to call a couple of his games, sideline reporting on the TV broadcasts in Canada West. He's a player. Like, he has speed, he has athleticism and a little bit of shiftiness to his run, and his body makeup is like Johnny Augustine. Have you seen those pictures of Johnny Augustine and like what his upper body looks like? Kyle Borsa's built as a pro today, straight out of university. So
how tall is Borsa? I believe Borsa is a smaller running back, right?
5'11". Yeah, okay, he might be the tallest out of all three of those Canadians.
I was going to say, they're basically all out of the same mold as far as height, right?
Yep.
And I'm curious because I don't want to go on other teams yet, but there hasn't been a lot of pump about Andrew Harris in Toronto. I've been reading all the
Toronto. Who's covering him?
You think that they got a guy that MVP of the Grey Cup, Canadian, whatever, Bubba, and they think they'd pump him up a little bit, but right now, and I know Toronto's got a loaded team. Listen, they're loaded. They're really liking that Chad Kelly kid. You got McLeod, Bethel Thompson. They got great receivers. They're going to really be – pinball's really built in that team up. But I wanted to see more from Andrew just because of curiosity to see how the kid plays and how he's doing, because I wish him nothing but success, because to me he's been a great ambassador for not only Winnipeg but for the CFL. So,
I was surprised that Toronto signed Andrew Harris at first, because I saw what DJ Foster did against the Blue Bombers last year. He's a really good running back and particularly talented in the pass game. He's since been released. So then suddenly it's like, okay, now I understand why Andrew Harris went and got, the same paycheck essentially he's been getting for the last number of years in the CFL, and rightfully so, just south of $200,000 a year, because how impactful he can be in games. The gas left in the tank, the energy left in the legs, all of that, injury ability and to play through all of that. You wonder what 33 will have in double blue compared to what he showed in blue and gold. We do know this, Chris, when healthy in Winnipeg or in BC, there was nobody better, really, you could even almost say ever, than Andrew Harris. So he will be missed here in Winnipeg. I'm curious to see what he has with Toronto.
Yeah, I just like the fire and the enthusiasm he brought. After he does a big run, he gets everybody excited. He poses a little bit, which I like. I like a running back to be slightly above confident. I don't want to say cocky, but to know they can really be a dominant figure in the football game. I think Brady and Johnny and even Borsa, when he gets his opportunity, can be the same type of running back. It's going to be, as you say, a Canadian position. But but they have so many opportunities with, like you say, the Canadian receivers now, Canadian running backs. You're allowed, that gives them a luxury of playing an import and loading the imports up at that defensive back position or something where they want to play, or linebackers.
Right.
They get away with that because of the fact that they have such talent, at national talent.
And, that's why good teams in the CFL come to be. It's because of their national talent, because of the talent they have amongst Canadians. Like Brandon Alexander can't start the season because of his health. What do? They put in a Canadian in Nick Hallett. They lose Andrew Harris in free agency, or decide to move on from him, maybe is a better way to put it. No worries. We're gonna bring Kyle Borsa because we drafted him in 2021. Johnny Augustine and Brady Oliveira, they're gonna be okay. Mike Miller has not practiced pretty much throughout training camp. I like to call him the killer. Of course, future Canadian Football Hall of Famer and record holder, the most special teams tackles ever in this game. Somebody I think more people need to talk about more often is number 24 in blue and gold. I think Mike Miller is just, I know he's a favorite of Mike O'Shea because he's just like, if there was a textbook or a dictionary definition of a football player, it would have a picture of the East Coaster, Mike Miller, right there. Hard as nails, lead by example, speaks quietly but carries a big stick. He's the type of guy you wish you had 20 of on a football team, and I'm hoping he's going to be ready to go for the beginning of the season.
You couldn't have 20 because you'd never get any practice.
Okay.
I mean, this is another one of those things, and when you got a guy that comes in at fullback, and listen, he led the league in CFL in special teams tackles with 25 last year. He's the GOAT. He's considered the greatest of all time, a special team tackler.
No question.
Number one, as you say, he will be a future Hall of Famer. They know what they get. They just keep him healthy. They just keep Mike Miller there and say, okay, we just want you to play, show up for games, and he does. That's the thing they have. When you can get away with that kind of stuff, and he's, like I said, he still comes in every once in a while at the fullback position, but you don't really need him there. Because, you got so much other talent everywhere else. You can just leave him on special teams. Loves his role. You talked about Nick Hallett, number 2. I think he had 16 special team tackles last year. This guy played a lot at safety. He has opportunities again, as you say, to start now. I think is his 3rd year in the league, a 3rd year with the Bombers. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
second,
I think so.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I know his brother might be 2nd. He might be 3rd. You got the Nick and Noah boys. So, it'll be interesting to see.
I'm just pulling up a tweet here by our good friend Dan Barnes of the Canadian Press, and I'll see if I can share the screen and find him. But this is what's interesting, Chris, is we're live, so we can bring in live update right now. There's Dan Barnes. Maybe it's not big enough, but he is reporting that the CFL PA membership vote on the tentative CBA with the CFL should be known by 9 p.m. Eastern tonight. So that's good news.
So 8 o'clock here, 8 o'clock Central.
Right, and well within the CFL imposed deadline of midnight. So give Dan a follow on Twitter, Sports Dan Barnes. Great guy, great reporter, and he's really been all over things for Post Media through all this as well. But look, Chris, this is what I think I'll maybe echo what I feel the sentiments of fans and probably a lot of people involved in the CFL as well from coast to coast. Thank goodness a deal is done. Thank goodness we're going to see games tomorrow. There's 2 on the schedule, including here in Winnipeg. And,
remember,
it would be bad if they didn't play.
Broken fingers crossed. But yes, I have to say, you know what? It still has to be voted on, bud. And, the big sticking point, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, was the fact that there was going to be this, 49% rule. I know it's not coming to fruition this year, but it'll be here next year. Will that be accepted? It's a 7-year term. Is it going to be a 6-year term? Is it 7 Canadians starting and a nationalized American? Is it 6? Are we going to lose a couple? These are all things that are not really known to us yet. But having said that, these are the things that the members are going to see. And we'll probably hear, because I know that we get updates all the time. And by 8 o'clock Winnipeg time, we'll know what the vote is. And we'll know if we have a game tomorrow. I think we will. But it just, you have to get something done, because every time you go through this kind of thing where it takes away from the game, you lose fans. People get disinterested about it. They don't have to say, screw this. I don't want to watch this no more. I'm done with it, right?
It's bad for the CFL, like not as the league or it's just bad for the brand.
Should have
right?
been done right after Grey Cup.
Yeah.
Why do you wait? Because they play that deadline game. That's the game we're playing right now. We're pushing the time frame. No.
And think of the Blue Bombers organization, right? Like they win the 2019 Grey Cup. They shatter a 29-year drought in a football mad market, and then a pandemic hits, and they don't get to celebrate it, and they don't get to raise a flag, and they don't get to do a lot of those things that fans were hoping to do to celebrate when they were back on the field. Yeah, they got to do it a year later after the pandemic, but it was a little bit different. And then what happens now? It's like they win it again, and are we going to be playing a preseason game on Friday? I sure hope this vote goes through. Indications are positive, Chris, that it will indeed go through. But
I just read a tweet now from John Hodge saying that if, according to his reports, the ratio will remain unchanged in 2022.
Right.
So
that was always the plan before, right?
Yeah. So I mean, that's a big thing, and that was the thing I thought was going to break it or make it. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. I'm just going to pull up that tweet right now from John Hodge, but well, we can leave it. We can leave it. But Chris, anything else?
James is sending a tweet here. He goes, "Hey, do you still do practice?"
Yes.
Like you put a frog in the water cooler. Oh yes. And the jock in the old chicken soup. That was
what?
Oh yeah, these are other stories. I don't know if I can. I guess I can talk about those. But yeah, we always had practical drills. Guys would staple guys' shoes to the floor. Oh yeah, freeze your clothes. A lot of stuff that I can't talk about on the show. But majority was all done in really good humor, and most people took it well. A lot of times they'd call tow trucks and tow your car somewhere. So guys would come out, especially the Americans, and they'd say, "Where's my car?" And wherever you go, we don't know. Meanwhile, it's around the block somewhere. Oh yeah.
Well, okay, at least if it's around the block. If you made them take a cab down to the impound lot and made them pay $150 or whatever,
well, that's our back when I played. That was our whole week for training camp, $150. So let's not get carried away.
Chris, I know this. A Winnipegger on the Blue Bombers took out a bunch of Americans and showed them around. Right? It's like, okay, here's your local Walmart. Here's where good takeout is or whatever. And the Americans were blown away by some of the snack food available in Canada that they'd never had before. Reese peanut butter cups were a huge hit. Hickory sticks, but this was the biggest hit, Chris. All dressed chips. These guys from the East Coast in the U.S. have never had all dressed chips before, and they loved them. Do you ever have experiences with that? Like showing guys around or things that were new, or Labatt Blue, what's this?
Well, that we did. That we did, my friend. We always exposed our friendly neighbors to the south or north, whatever you want to call it, to the variety of very good tasting beverages. With different types of barley and oats. And that was one thing back then. It was a lot of fun. Guys would get together. It was nothing like breaking bread with somebody you don't know by just having a couple of cold ones. And it's amazing. Any kind of, barriers you have are broken down. Guys start laughing. You get to know guys. That's how you bond. And I know that O'Shea still believes in that, even though the league has, taken a different turn on that, where, there's no more any kind of alcohol in the locker room anymore.
I do want to give a shout out, Chris, to our contest winner from last night. I said I would announce the winner on GameDay Winnipeg today. So congratulations to Kevin Spruill, who won our golf package from our friends at Scotswood Links in Elm Creek, Manitoba. Just a quick drive. A quick drive down Highway 2, and it's one of my favorite courses. Definitely on your to-do list. Everybody out there, if you haven't played Scotswood Links yet, but he won a foursome package. You can either go 2 and 2 or bring 3 friends and do a foursome with carts, green fees, everything. They've got a beautiful clubhouse up there. Greens are in good shape. All 18 holes are in play. Go check them out. You still golf, Chris?
Yes, I do. Yep. I started off with my driver, ended up in the woods. I'm actually supposed to be golfing in a tournament on Saturday in Petersfield at Netley Golf. but we've taken such a beating with the rain and the waters are so high. It'll be interesting to see if this is going to be allowed, because obviously you can't be driving carts on the grass. You're trying to keep your grounds in pristine shape. So that'll be an interesting thing and a game time decision on Saturday. But yeah, I like golf. I really like golf. It's a game where you can't blame anybody but yourself. That
is true. Well, you never had a buddy like holler in your backswing or anything like that?
Yeah, if I had a backswing, I got flexibility of a 2x4. I mean, it's not pretty. But it's funny because I golf with a guy, and I remember this guy was so big. He was probably 5'10", 350 pounds, just square, basically the same height lying down.
Okay.
He golfed in flip-flops. And his center of gravity was amazing. And he would hit the ball 300 plus every time. And I go, how does a guy like that do that? And it just teaches you, it's just technique. And, I need to play more. That's what I guess I'll just say that. I like to play more.
Again, we'll have to get I'll get you out to Scottswood Links. We'll
there you go. We'll do that one time for sure. And a big shout out to them for doing that.
Yeah, big thanks to them. Also want to shout out Easy EV. That's Easy EV install.ca. You can find their logo and a link to their site on bonfiresports.ca. Awesome company, great guy. I played football with Mark. You can give him a call, 431-999-3279. And they're one of these companies, Chris, that's really changing the game a bit. They're putting in charging stations in homes and in local businesses. So people with electric vehicles can charge their car a lot quicker than they would just kind of plugging it in to a regular outlet. It only takes 6 hours to go from 0 to full, with one of their charging solutions. So check them out, easyevinstall.ca, and you can find more information on them on bonfiresports.ca. But thanks to everybody that's reached out to sponsor. And if you're interested in sponsoring this program, Bonfire MidWeek, Bonfire or GameDay Winnipeg After Dark, and our postgame show, or anything else, be sure to hit the hotline right there, 816-TIPS, 816-8477, as well as, if you got questions or comments for the big guy to my virtual left, Chris Walby, or me. We're going to do some live streams during practice as well, Chris. So, maybe we'll even have you pop in.
DB, this is one of the nicest things, the fact that you got guys coming in here being interactive again. It's like a personal touch, rather than just us do the show and we're hoping you're watching it, and we've had some great reviews, but it's nice to see people coming over, as you say, in the comments section. Let's go, Jeff Hamilton, that's your buddy. Crew, CBA Ratio by Tyler Fabry, Andrew Harms, a fan over 30 years. And we just mentioned that. CFL, the fact that they played it, to the last second. They should have negotiated this right after Grey Cup or a week after. So you're not pushing this scenario right now, because if they get a 7-year deal, we won't have to worry about it for a while.
Yeah.
And long-term is better than, a 2-year deal where you got to do it again.
So this question popped up earlier, and I'll just say, Eric, be sure to go back in the video on YouTube or check out the podcast on all the popular podcast platforms. We talked about all the receivers, but Ellingson, Bailey, of course, Wolotarski and Nick Dembski will be in the mix as well, but there is a spot open. We mentioned some of the names. I'm going to be watching 83 Dalton Schoen out of K-State, first-year CFLer. He's impressed in training camp so far this year. Chris, you got keys to the game, or do we do that in the preseason?
I don't know if you do keys. I guess the only key would be stay healthy. And, if you're a rookie, play the best game you can, play lights out, because you may not get another tomorrow.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Apple and a roadmap. A wise man once told me. That was you, of course. Well, Chris, thanks for this. And thanks to everybody out there for watching, for commenting, look at this. I got to throw this in here last second.
Sure.
Is that a compliment or a question?
I don't know if that's a comment or just guessing. That's a very good question.
Well, thanks for listening and watching, Hammy, and everybody out there as well. He gave us a little support here, so I'll tell everyone out there. Jeff K. Hamilton on Twitter. He's been got great work on the CBA negotiations and all that. You can check out his work winnipegfreepress.com, and in the old pages as well, if that's still how you're inclined. But thanks again to everybody out there. Thanks to you, Chris. I can't imagine doing a pregame show without you, brother.
Well, like I said, we're around during the week, so if we have to do a midweek one time, I'll come in. But this is basically our pregame, and it'll be interesting to see the boys play, because it's always, right now we're all concentrated on the same thing, and that's getting a deal done.
Yeah.
But on the back burners, we want to see this. We want to see football. So now that we have this game on, it looks like potentially tomorrow with Edmonton, who will fly out tomorrow, we get to see some live action.
Yeah.
And I know people will be missing it. So let's do it, baby.
No, it's going to be fun feeling and hearing the crowd at IG Field on Friday night. Thanks again for joining us. If you watched Bonfire midweek last night, you saw the fancy graphics and intro and outro videos. Don't have those for Bonfire pardon me, Game Day Winnipeg yet. Chris, I promise I'll get something going very soon, but it's been a busy time. And last comment goes to Got Milt. Here we go, Bombers. People are ready. So enjoy the game out there. Thanks for joining us.
I just want one thing. I want a dang shirt.
We'll get you a shirt, Chris. I promise.
Come on, man. Where are you getting these from? That they can only make it in that size?
I'll tell you.
What's your wife wearing?
She's mad I didn't get her a hat. She's legit mad I didn't get her a hat. But
we'll
get things make up. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know they came in that size, but it's good, man.
Okay, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Those shirts come in men's size?
Yeah, they come. Yeah, they do.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
Yep.
All right, brother.
Take care, everybody.
Pleasure, buddy.